Sure. So, again, my name is Taffiney Williams. My mom and dad were both 13 years old when they found out they were pregnant with me. And when my grandmother found out my mom was pregnant, she started giving my mom quinine and turpentine, which are two poisons that create abortions, right? So, one of them actually starts the contracting of the uterus, and the other one stimulates the blood flow. Back in the early 70s, it was something that they used to use to get rid of babies, and that's kind of where my story began. Fortunately, though, my grandmother's sister came from Mississippi to Detroit, where I was conceived, and found out what was going on. And she gave my mom an opportunity to come to Mississippi and to have the baby and allow her to raise the baby as her own because she couldn't have children of her own. So it was a really interesting beginning, but it didn't stop there. I stayed in that environment. My mom stayed there for a little while, but she then left and got with my father, my brother's father. And she left me and kept my brother, but she didn't take me with her. So it started a little bit of an abandonment issue and some rejection issues, some things that I had to deal with later on in life. When I was 4 years old, they concocted a whole situation where they wanted me back. So they hired men to come into my cute little Catholic school and to kidnap me at gunpoint at 4 years old. Of course, I didn't know who any of these people were, so it caused me to start dealing with fear and a whole bunch of other things that could have been avoided, but at that time, they felt like that was the best thing that they could do. So that's kind of a little bit about where my story started. And I felt like I was not protected. I didn't feel protected. I didn't feel wanted. I didn't feel important enough for them to stop what was going on and to keep me in a space of safety. So I went and I was with that part of the family for a season. I'm not sure about how long I was there, but the way that they got me to not want to fight or to go back to my mom that I knew was to tell me that when they came to get me, it was because she was going to kill me. So I didn't know who to trust. I didn't know whether to trust these people that I was with or to trust the mom that I had known that had cared for me for the 4 years of my life. I didn't know who to trust. So trust issues started at that point. Well, fast forward, I did get back with my mom that I knew, who had me for the first 4 years. And at 9 years old, we were going fishing. I was from Mississippi, so that's what we did every weekend. We went fishing. And while we were fishing, my uncle said to me, "Have you had sex yet?" And I told him, I said, "I don't know what that is." And he proceeded to show me the parts of the body that were used for that particular situation. Of course, me being scared and not knowing what was going on, I had always been taught, you listen to grown-ups, you don't talk back to grown-ups, all of these other things. I went to my mom and I told her what happened. When I told my mom what happened, she gave me a gun and told me if he touched me again to kill him. Well, I was used to using a gun. I mean, we're Mississippi kids, we shoot all the time, cans and anything else that was moving. And, but it started in my head, like here I am a kid having to make a grown-up decision. So you're telling me to kill my grandma's son, my mom's brother, my uncle who I knew had taken care of me. I mean, he was a good guy most of the time, but this particular situation was quite different. So I felt unprotected again at that point because mom would still let him come over and they would drink on the weekends. So I would lock myself in my room, and that's how I started reading as much as I did. I would disappear in my books. I could be in China, I could be in Japan, wherever the encyclopedia said that it was going on. I could be all those places at one time, and I learned to write and talk about my feelings through journaling. And that's kind of where my love for being a creative came from. Well, fast forward at 12 years old, my grandfather, the only man that ever loved me unconditionally on this side of heaven, passed away. So here again, I felt that I was unimportant because he left me again. So it was just this continual space. And understanding now what I understand is that spirit of rejection, that spirit of abandonment, that orphan spirit started in the womb. So it is important. Conception is where life starts. It is where those things start to take root, good, bad, and indifferent. So that's kind of to the age 12 or so that my life. In the beginning, when I found out that there had been an attempt to abort me, I was a little bit perturbed with my grandmother. I was quite upset with my mom. Even though she made the choice to not abort me and to move to Mississippi to have me, she still left me while she was pregnant with my brother. So there was still an issue of somewhat unforgiveness, definitely not believing that there was true love that was there. And there were two things that happened. One, when I got to the age of 13, and I started thinking, oh my God, what would I do with a baby at this age? I started to think a little differently about what could have gone on in their heads. And then when I had my first child, I started thinking, or got pregnant with my first child, I started thinking, how on earth could you think about taking a life? So there was this emotional roller coaster. Not because I didn't love the people that were around me, but I began to kind of put myself in their positions and to understand from my grandmother's perspective. My mom is only 14 years younger than my grandmother, meaning that she was around the same age when those things happened. Now, as I found out more about my grandmother's life, my grandmother was very active in the church. She was a musician her whole life. And so she would go out, and our family, our heritage is from the Holloway family. We went and sang at different churches. They still do that to this day. They were people that went and sang at different churches. So she had the opportunity to record her first gospel song when she was 8 years old. And when she got pregnant, she had to stand before the church and confess her sin and, the whole shame thing. And because of her pregnancy, her life, or what she thought her life was supposed to look like, came to an end because of it. So when she saw her daughter get pregnant around the same age, the last thing she wanted for her daughter was for her life to be messed up because of bringing a life into the world that was unplanned by them. Not unplanned by God, but unplanned by them. I've heard it said many times, a lot of the people that we know of that have gone on to do great and mighty things, they were in that same space where there was a thought about aborting that child. I know that God has granted me the opportunity to help bring so many people to Christ, to leave the 99 and go after the one, to impact and influence through media and so many other things. All things that would not have been possible had that abortion taken place. The second thing I would say to someone that's contemplating is there are many people out there that desire to have children that can't have children. And one of the most unselfish acts that you could do is to give your child to someone else to raise them that may not have the opportunity to have a child of their own.